The United States is convinced that Russia intends to invade Ukraine. A last-ditch effort is being made by the French President Emmanuel Macron, who is talking about a summit-level meeting between the US President Joe Biden and the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Of course, the United States wants a commitment from Russia that it will not invade Ukraine. But what's the ground situation? India Today not only gets you a ground report from here, Kharkiv, but also satellite imagery accessed by India Today's Ankit Kumar that seems to indicate that the Russian forces have now changed their tactics. They've changed the way they were initially deployed, and some of the Russian forces are now deployed barely 15 kilometers from the Russia-Ukraine border. Here at Kharkiv, there is tension because information filtering in from the other side seems to indicate that a large number of Russian tanks, armored personnel carriers, artillery guns and troops are now deployed. Whether it is for an assault or just as pressure tactics remains to be seen.
Helicopters, armored vehicles, military camps. Every sign of an army on the march. India Today has accessed satellite pictures showing movement of Russian ground forces at the border. The images on your screen show new developments of Russian military units in forests, farms and industrial areas as little as 15 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. What's obvious is a change in the pattern of previous deployments of battle groups. Satellite pictures show multiple new field deployments of armored equipment and troops in Russia near the border with Ukraine. The new images have come at a time when Russian President Vladimir Putin claimed partial withdrawal of troops from the border. The US and NATO refused to buy Putin's claims, saying there was no sign of a Russian withdrawal at the border. In fact, the US says the threat of a Russian invasion is growing by the day. In a change of stance, Biden on Sunday said he was ready for a summit with President Putin to ease tensions. The signal from Moscow on the summit was tentative. No outright rejection, but no promise on when it could take place.
But
President Putin made clear several times that we are not against summits or meetings. But before the meetings, in such a heated environment, we need to know how those meetings can end, what the result will be. So Russian and French leaders agreed that our West colleagues, as initiators of such activities, would show us their vision of the results. So we await.
While diplomacy continues, what is worrying is the increasing hostilities between Russia and Ukraine.
There is an uneasy calm at the borders. The army deployed in several areas. Locals also told to prepare for any eventuality. Here at Kharkiv, which is the second largest city in Ukraine, home to 1.5 million people, it's a major industrial hub. Tanks are made here, armored personnel carriers are made here. This is also a very major educational hub. People have been told to beware of what's happening around. I caught up with some of the locals here, including a young local political leader and an historian, and they say opinion is very sharply divided. There are some who are close to Kiev, the thinking in the western part of Europe. This is the eastern part of Europe, and several have sympathies with Russia here. Kharkiv, with a population of 1.5 million, is barely 25 kilometers from the Russian border. This is Ukraine's second biggest city, and it is an industrial hub. It is an educational hub. And according to intelligence gathered by Ukrainian agencies, Kharkiv is on the target of the Russian forces, especially with Russian tanks amassed at the borders. India Today is reporting from Kharkiv at the Russian border. With me is Daria. Daria is a young political leader here in the eastern part of Ukraine. Daria, how imminent is the threat of a Russian invasion at Kharkiv?
Well, we all know that there are a lot of Russian tanks and troops on the border between Kharkiv and Russia, but we never know what's in Putin's head, so we are not sure if something will happen. But if something will happen, we are ready.
When you say you are ready, what kind of preparations are being put in by the army, by the government and the people of Kharkiv, especially with some say that the loyalties are quite divided in eastern Ukraine?
Well, we have a lot of pro-Ukrainian people here in Kharkiv who are ready to protect our country. So I'm sure that if something will happen, they will take the weapon and protect all us. And most of all, we really trust our army. We have really strong army.
You indeed do, but most of your army, according to reports, is deployed and engaged in Donbass and other areas in the east. How well protected is Kharkiv and how real is the threat? Because one of the assessment is that Russia will go straight for Kiev and target Kiev from Belarus side. The other assessment is that the attack will be simultaneous on the biggest city, Kiev, and the second biggest city, Kharkiv.
Well, threat is real, but Kharkiv is really well protected. We have a lot of soldiers here in Kharkiv who are training now and preparing. So I think that Kharkiv is protected. And we also have many techniques here, like tanks and other.
Oleg, is there tension here in Kharkiv? This is just 25 miles from the Russian border.
Yes, there is a tension, but at the personal level, at the level of people, we don't think that it will be a war.
Why do you think there will be no war? Because Americans are saying that Kharkiv may be perhaps the first city to be targeted by Russia before Kiev.
Here at the eastern part of Ukraine, we believe that Russia is our friend, our very nice friend. But at the political level, now we have tensions. Here in Ukraine, we have a lot of corruption, a lot of problems, and we don't think that Russia will attack us. But I'm not saying about all Ukrainians, it's my personal view.
Sure. But this has a military-industrial complex, this has an educational hub. Russian forces are amassed barely 25 miles from where we are standing at this point of time. Does this mean something could happen? The balloon could go up. Kharkiv is not very well protected, or is it well protected?
No, it's not well protected. Ukrainian army is weak. It's not strong. We cannot compare Russia and Ukraine. It's like maybe India and Pakistan. And so India, of course, is stronger, but Pakistan is pro-Western. The same as Ukraine is pro-Western, but weak country. India is stronger, and Russia is also stronger. And Russia has traditions, like Great Britain.
So you've got both sides of the story here at Kharkiv. Some who say Russia much stronger, others who say Ukraine in a strong position to be able to defend itself. Of course, also hoping that NATO forces and the United States will continue to provide more than just intelligence and military hardware. But there is fighting going on, especially in some parts of the east, and that fighting has intensified in the past 48 to 72 hours. Not restricted to small arms. Despite the Minsk agreement, it's now escalated to artillery shelling. There were some instances of improvised explosive devices also being used. And if we were to talk about security in the east, Ukrainian forces employed pretty extensively in the Donbass Donbass area, and that is why is this belt slightly neglected. Let's take a look at the deployment of troops and the ground realities.
Novognativka village in Donetsk region of southeast Ukraine is suffering from the aftermath of shelling. Caught in the crossfire between the Russian-backed rebels and Ukrainian forces, villagers had to spend a sleepless night on Sunday when 16 houses in the village were damaged due to the shelling.
It was silent. I thought I would come out to close the gate. I just came to the door. I heard shelling. I opened the door. Everything was black. The window is broken here. Windows are broken there. Here is the crater.
I've heard they brought Chechens. They say that Russia is not involved. There is their position. Straight here. 6 seconds for shell to fly.
You can see their positions from here. White thin and the smoke. They were shooting from there just now.
With electricity and gas services cut off, families spend the night hiding in the basement. The grim reality staring them in the face, there is nowhere to go.
Where should we go? Okay, we will all leave. But is there anyone waiting for us there? Where should I go? Who will receive me? Maybe for a day or two. But what about after that? And when I came back, there will be nothing. Ruins. Have I lived my life for nothing?
There has been no let-up in shells exploding along the line separating Ukrainian soldiers and separatists. Russian state television has been constantly reporting on evacuees entering neighboring Russia.
910 people have arrived, including 358 children. We have prepared 42 temporary accommodation points. We have confirmed the readiness to receive 4,500 people. We will increase the number of places for accommodation if the situation requires it.
Separatist forces controlling the Donetsk region confirmed that more than 6,600 people had been evacuated so far. According to Russian and Russian-backed sources, some 25,000 people have reportedly left Luhansk region. And there are thousands more who are ready to up and leave.
What has sent alarm bells ringing is the fact that Russia did not withdraw troops from Belarus after the exercises with Belarus got over on Sunday. So there were about 30,000 troops as part of this very massive military exercise in this area. It was hoped, at least that is what Ukraine initially felt, that if those troops went back, then this was just American propaganda that Russia intended to attack Belarus. But on Sunday, Russia said those troops will stay back given the tension with Ukraine. That means on that axis, getting from Belarus all the way to Kiev, it's just 90 miles and absolutely no obstacles in place. So should Russia want, it can actually come down on Kiev from Belarus and of course at Kharkiv from the Russian border here, which is just 25 kilometers away from this point. So that is why alarm bells are ringing across Ukraine, NATO and the United States of America. There is now a last-ditch effort being made to bring peace and prevent war. The French President Emmanuel Macron has spoken about the need of a summit-level meeting between the US President Joe Biden and the Russian President Vladimir Putin. And should that summit-level meeting happen, it will bring down tensions several notches. But the United States White House wants a commitment from Kremlin that Russia will not attack Ukraine. Russia, on the other hand, and that is information that's coming in through media in Russia, wants Ukraine or the United States to give a commitment that Ukraine will not join NATO. A commitment isn't coming from either side. So it remains to be seen whether this summit-level meeting will be held. If so, when and where. Ukraine very clearly is on the edge, and the president here, Vladimir Zelensky, he wants new guarantees for this broken system, this constant threat that Russia could invade. And Ukraine has been living under this constant threat since 2014. First it was Crimea, then the two border districts, and now the threat is from Kharkiv to Kiev to the entire country. And that is why Zelensky, President Zelensky has gone on record to say the guarantees they seek is 1. Protection from a Russian invasion. 2. Freedom to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and not be coerced by Russia not to do so. It's not just the soldiers, but even the common man and woman on the street who are being asked to come forward and join the national effort here in Ukraine. Men and women taking small arms training, also training to be field medics to assist soldiers out in the field. We bring you another such story of the training and the call for duty.
Russia's buildup of tens of thousands of troops near Ukraine's borders has stirred fears that it is poised to invade. While Moscow denies any such plans, some Ukrainian citizens are preparing for an unwelcome fight.
In our country, 8 years we live in a war. And now the situation is very tense.
Even though she's a media relations specialist based in capital city Kiev, Elisa has always enjoyed shooting for sport. More than a year ago, the 38-year-old Ukrainian mother joined a local territorial defense unit, looking to acquire combat skills.
I slightly understood that I need some skills of first aid. I need the skills to shoot and skills of tactics, just to defend my son.
They're skills she now fears she may have to use in the face of a Russian threat. Elisa puts on camouflage fatigues, takes one of her 2 small caliber guns and heads to a training ground. Along with dozens of other volunteers, mostly men with civilian jobs, she spends 7 hours either with her weapon on the ground or on guard as a part of a small patrol tasked to protect a concrete building from enemies. She said the basic training gives her comfort.
Now I understand so much that my skill that I've got all this period serving in territory defense forces, it's so important. I feel self-convenient. I'm sure that I have enough skills.
Elisa said that like all Ukrainians, she doesn't want a war, but if war comes to her, she will take up a rifle and fight.
As Kharkiv braces for an imminent Russian attack, we report from Ground Zero, but that is all I have for you on this special broadcast from eastern Ukraine. Many thanks for watching.